Welcome to the Binge Breakers podcast. I'm Jacqueline. I am here to teach you how I overcame bulimia and my binge eating disorder, and how you can too. Through simple steps of mind management, repairing your relationship with yourself, understanding your habits, and intuitive eating.
Disclaimer. This recording is not intended to be utilized as medical advice or a medical diagnosis. If you think you're in need of medical attention or treatment, please seek it immediately. This recording will also contain sensitive subjects such as binging and purging, weight, and depression. Please listen at your own discretion and do what you think is best for you.
Hello, everyone. How are you doing? I've been recording these episodes in bulk, so you're listening to me, and I'm recording this in the beginning of May, but you're listening to it and it's almost end of May. There's like 2 weeks left of May. What's going on? Crazy. But today we're going to be talking about relationships. I know I've done a few episodes on this, but I think I can't speak enough to how much bulimia affects your relationship. And I don't think I've done a full episode. I've done an episode on how to tell people about your bulimia. And I've done a few episodes where we lightly touch on bulimia, or like how to improve your relationship with Katrin Bennett. But I don't think I've done an episode entirely dedicated to the ways in which bulimia affects your relationship and a few key things on what you can do in those relationships to improve it. I did have that series on my podcast about, how your loved ones can help you with bulimia, which I think is an effective, really, really great episode to listen to if you're struggling to communicate with your loved ones about bulimia. So definitely check that out if you're new here. But otherwise, we're going to be talking about the top ways bulimia affects your relationship. The point of this podcast is to hopefully motivate you to try to see that it's impacting more than just your health. It's impacting your life, and your relationships could be better without bulimia. And I think what motivated me most in bulimia recovery to get better wasn't just the idea of not being bulimic anymore. It's like, okay, well, what does that mean? What motivated me to do the work that was required in recovery was seeing the potential for the other areas in my life to improve. Because if I couldn't have seen that, I wouldn't have had much motivation to recover. And so recovering from bulimia is not just about stopping bulimia, it's about improving your life as a whole, which I couldn't see. So understanding the benefits that you'd have if you weren't struggling can really light a fire under you to continue in the recovery journey. And a lot of the things that you work on recovery help with other areas in your life. But first, if you love this show and you like it, it's been useful to you, or you love this episode, you're a first-time listener and you love this episode, please go ahead and give it a rating and review. It helps me so much. It helps my business. It makes me feel good when I read it. And then also it helps other people who are struggling find the podcast. And for those of you guys that have rated the podcast, and for those of you guys that are my course members, my clients, and my group coaching members, I know you guys listen to. Thank you. Without all of you, I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing today and be able to have the life that I'm having and continue to do the podcast. So I really, truly appreciate it. It's been an amazing journey. And then also, like I just mentioned, if you do find this podcast helpful and you are looking for more support in your recovery journey, I offer both one-on-one coaching, group coaching, and an affordable bulimia recovery course. So all those things can be very, very helpful for you in your recovery. If you're interested in any of those after this episode, you can check them out at bingebreakers.com. And I'm also on Instagram at bingebreakers_bulimia, where you can watch me do really poorly laid out but funny reels and watch me make a fool of myself, because that's what I love to do as well. Honestly, they are fun once you get started making them. Okay. Let's talk about how bulimia affects your relationship. Well, one big thing about bulimia that people don't realize is that it really makes you very secretive, and it's almost like you have a secret relationship going on with bulimia. It's like you're cheating on your partner with bulimia. And of course, you shouldn't feel like you're cheating on them. You're not. But at the same time, it kind of feels like that, because I remember when I was going through bulimia, I sometimes wished my partner, my boyfriend, would just disappear so I could eat food alone and watch TV and just be quiet and just numb out. It felt like a junkie. I felt like I was like, I really just want to do this. instead of socialize with you at all. It made me very not present, and it made me very secretive and almost bitter towards my partner for him being there when we're eating meals, right? It's like, can you just stop talking so I can eat my meal and enjoy it in peace and not be with you? That's crazy. That's how it was. And it also was very secretive because I would binge and purge and not tell him. It would be going on behind closed doors. Even after I did eventually tell him, which is a giant relief, but I then kind of made it seem like, oh, I'm doing better when I wasn't. And it just was this constant thing of in the background, oh yeah, I'm also struggling with bulimia. It's not such a big deal, but it kind of is. And it's this big secret thing that I had to fit into my life. And when you're mentally thinking about bulimia all the time, your mind is being occupied by it, not just, the binging and purging alone, but the food obsession, the way you're thinking about your weight, your self-esteem, it all affects how much capacity you have in your mind to be able to give to the relationship. And because bulimia was so heavily in my life, like a lot of my clients, I wasn't able to give a lot to that relationship, and I wasn't able to be there for it often, which is part of the reason we were having such problems that we were having. You start to, this is another point, but I'll just make it now because I'm talking about it. You prioritize bulimia over everything else. It's really hard to prioritize your partner, anyone else in your life, all your relationships. I'm talking about one-on-one, like romantic partners, but this goes for any sort of relationship. When you are struggling with bulimia, it's very hard to make bulimia not your number one thing and not to prioritize it over everything else. It's like any other addiction or issue, is that you start to put that over everything else. You start to rationally think about getting to your addiction rather than the people that are in front of you that would make your life so much better. It also provides you with a lot of ups and downs. And the problem in my relationship was I was always either really high or really, really low. And I was usually really low most often, and bulimia made me really low most often, which obviously wasn't helpful for my relationship. I was constantly a downer, constantly depressed, constantly going through yo-yos of emotion, constantly upset about my weight or how I looked or who I was as a person. And that bled into a relationship. And I'm not saying to have a successful relationship, you have to be happy and perfect all the time. That is obviously not realistic, and your partner should not expect that of you. But I was never able to really be there supportively for my partner. I was constantly the one that needed comforting and consoling in my relationship, leaned on them emotionally way too much, and partly because bulimia always made me not able to understand and deal with my emotions. So bulimia constantly made me in crisis mode, and I wasn't super pleasant to be around because of it. And I'm obviously talking a lot about my own personal experience here. I understand that not everyone has the same degree of issues in their relationship, but I'm assuming if I struggled so much with it, then you probably struggle in similar areas with your relationship and bulimia. It also sometimes, if you tell the other person, sometimes that person doesn't know how to help you, but they know that you're struggling. And so it can kind of put a damper on you feeling like your partner is expecting you to recover, or they keep pressuring you with different things that they're telling you that they read or whatever. And that can be stressful towards you. You can almost feel annoyed at them, even though they're trying to help. So it creates this kind of lack of communication. And it's also just added extra stress. I think anyone like that it can put two and two together would think that bulimia just adds extra stress on your relationship. Another thing too about the secrecy that bulimia adds to a relationship, especially if you're in a relationship where you haven't told your partner that you were going through bulimia, or people don't know that you're going through bulimia. I'm not saying you have to tell people, shout from the rooftops, or wear a badge on your shirt that says I'm struggling with bulimia. You don't have to do that. But when you're the people closest to you in your life, when they don't know, it's kind of like you're closing them off to a huge piece of their life. It's like you go to talk to someone and they never tell you that they're struggling with cancer. And so you're acting like everything's totally fine. Oh, yeah. And yet, if you knew that they had cancer, you'd connect with them in a different way, and rightfully so, because there are different things going on that they need to be addressing. You're shutting them out from a major piece of your life. And I understand why you want to do that. You think you don't want to bother them, or you think that they're going to lower their opinion of you or whatever. But when you're keeping that secret from them, it's like this whole thing in your mind that you can't talk about, and it creates this disconnect in your relationship. And I'll say, even though I didn't recover for 3 more years after telling my boyfriend about my bulimia, telling him was one of the best things I did for my relationship because I was finally being truthful. I was owning what was going on, and I closed a gap in our relationship. And I really opened myself vulnerably to him and was like, this is me, this is what's happening. And he could understand me at a much deeper level than he had before because I was finally telling him what was actually going on. And when you know all of the pieces to the story, then you can relate in a better way to that person too. So the secrecy isn't just like you're hiding things from them. It really creates a disconnect in communication. And when you tell people about things you're struggling with, that's often some of the most connecting moments you have with people. Think about all the things that people have confessed to you and how connected you felt in that moment when they told you about their struggles. It really brings us closer together when we can commiserate together and support each other. And I think that's something that bulimia does. It isolates you in so many ways, but part of it is it makes you think that you need to keep it a secret, and you really don't. And it's far more beneficial to tell people than it is to keep it a secret. Telling people is one of the major steps you have to take to get help. So bulimia obviously affects your relationship in so many ways. I think a few things to help with this is, number one, telling your partner or whoever relationship you're thinking about, tell them if you feel confident enough to do this. So if you feel safe with them, I think it's going to help you long-term, even though you're scared. Also try to be open about your struggles in bulimia. Also understand they're not responsible for your recovery, and you are not responsible for recovering for them. I think a lot of people put pressure on themselves in the relationship to recover for their partner. And while, yes, that can be a motivation, you do need to recover first and foremost for you. If you feel like you're recovering for them, it can feel almost resentful towards them. It's putting pressure on them. Like, you're the reason I'm doing this. No, they're not. You are the reason you are doing this for yourself. They're also like, don't blame them for your bulimia, obviously, and don't put the pressure on them to make sure you recover. They are not responsible for you in that way. Don't do that. It's going to put a lot of unnecessary strain on the relationship. It's going to make you, again, resentful towards each other. And also communicate openly about it as to what you think you need and what your partner needs as well. So don't just talk about what you need if you're going through bulimia. And yeah, obviously you need help, but your partner probably needs help too. They probably have a lot of questions. They probably don't understand everything that you're going through. So asking them, hey, is there anything you're confused about? Is there anything you need to know? Is there anything that really bothers you? Anything that would help you? You need to be supportive of them just the way, like how they're trying to be supportive of you. And that goes for any type of relationship, romantic or not. Also, don't expect your partner to know exactly what to do. I think we do this in relationships all the time, whether we're struggling with bulimia or not. We think that people should just read our minds, that they should know exactly what to do. Oftentimes, it's not the case. You need to communicate them what you need. And if they're doing something that's not helpful, you need to communicate that in a polite way, and also be really compassionate with them when they don't get it right on the first try, because they're not struggling with bulimia. They don't know what's going through your head. So be understanding of that. We're all trying to figure things out. Give everyone a little grace and compassion. You don't get things right on the first time. I hope that this has all been helpful for you and opened your eyes to some of the ways that bulimia is affecting your relationship that maybe you didn't see. And hopefully it motivates you to want to keep on working towards recovery. Because a lot of things we focus on in recovery in my course and with my group coaching members is about mindfulness and being present in the moment and prioritizing other things over bulimia, and really understanding and taking responsibility for your thoughts and actions. And all of those concepts are also very helpful in relationships, obviously. So please know that the work you're going to do for recovery will also help you in your journey to having a better life and a better relationship in general. Okay, I'm going to let you go here. Never give up on yourself, my friend. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Goodbye.